We'll go ahead and get started. Officially, hello everyone, and welcome to the Community Marriage Initiative Fund's monthly training event. My name is Katie Ray. I'm with Marriage Initiative, and I have the privilege of working closely with our amazing CMI teams across the U.S. as you guys serve with intentional purpose in your respective communities. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us here today. But before we get started with our guest speakers, I'd like to do a quick recap of our September event for those of you who weren't with us last month. And as you know, we always post these training events on our YouTube page. And so if there's any that you haven't seen, and if you haven't been able to join us in the past, you can certainly go back and watch those. So in the month of October, we had the honor of hosting Ron McLean with the Fresno County Healthy Marriage Coalition. And he spoke on building community support in Fresno over the past 20 years. And during this segment, he really honed in on rallying partners and local leaders in their communities around a CMI. And he included creative ways and ideas on how, they have been able to successfully do that in their community over the years, which also gave some of us ideas of maybe what we could bring back home to our own community. We also heard from Dennis Stoika, and he presented on his memo to NARMI regarding a new way of thinking about fundraising for the field of relationship and marriage education. And during his segment, he really focused on funding that had already been allocated to federal and state agencies and in ways that we as community marriage leaders can tap into those dollars in different ways to kind of do that. So it was really enlightening and eye-opening presentation on funding that's already out there, kind of some low-hanging fruit. And then moving on to this month, we have a packed agenda, and we are hosting 4 guest speakers today. But before I introduce our first speaker, Mr. Jason Ancarrow in Little Rock, Arkansas, will be opening us up in prayer. So thank you, Jason.
Sure. Let's pray. Father, Lord, you are good and you are God, and we acknowledge who you are. We acknowledge that you go before us, that your presence is with us. Thank you for being worthy, God. Thank you that we worship you and you alone. And thank you for using us, Lord, to spread your word, to be about your work. And God, who are we to do this? We are humbly grateful for these opportunities, for these things to be a part of. Thank you for the work of our hands, and may it be to your glory. Lord, would you go before us, each of these leaders, everybody on each of these trainings, Father, to bring great effect into this world for your glory. Thank you for this unique opportunity that we all had to be a part of the Community Marriage Initiative. And thank you that there are new people, it seems like, each month, that you are growing this, that you are, and people are taking notice. Thank you that hearts are being changed and lives are being changed. And Lord, would you continue to press in, to allow us to see the best next step for us to work, as Carl says, in our highest and best role, and to inspire others, Lord, to do the same. Whatever that looks like, Father, we are completely dependent on you. And so we pray for your continued guidance and faithfulness. Thank you, Lord, that you are worthy to be, you are worthy, Lord, for us to walk in this with you and to be given all praise in it. And we're grateful. God, we're grateful and thankful and excited to see how you continue to move things forward in this country and even further. Thank you, Father, in Jesus' name. Would you go with those who are speaking today, give them the right ways and the correct words to say that would speak to our hearts, to inspire us and to show us something new. And we bless you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Wonderfully said. Thank you, Jason. So first on our agenda for today, we have Mark Ellis. And to give you a little information about Mark, Mark joined Family Life back in 1995, and he has served as a regional manager, a ministry representative, and an associate planner for the Weekend to Remember Getaway for over the last 20 years. He also served the I Still Do and Rekindling the Romance teams for the one-day Family Life Couples Conference, and as a speaker for the Weekend to Remember alumni sessions and pastor couple sessions. Mark currently serves as the church liaison with the Central Arkansas Marriage Initiative, or CAMI, as many of us know them, with Jason. And he has been married to Michelle, his wonderful bride, who's also on our call today, for 41 years. And they have 2 married daughters and 1 amazing grandson. And today, Mark will be speaking on what they've learned from a donor relations consultant that they've been working with, and more specifically, things you should know about your donors when speaking with them. So Mark, thank you for starting us off here today.
Thank you, Katie, and thanks for the prayer, Jason, because there needs to be clarity around this subject. We have just a lot that we've learned and a lot we need to learn, and we're in the process of that. So since that's so muddy, I'll just tell you about my amazing grandson. No, not really. But my most important job is being Paul to him, and we have a great time. In addition to that, everything Katie read off wasn't even my full-time job at Family Life. So I had the opportunity to do marriage ministry that Michelle and I felt called to, and have worked with the Central Arkansas Marriage Initiative actually since 2014. It's been around quite a while, but it is just now taking shape in the direction that we want it to go. So the initiative decided, as we look toward being able to sustain our work long-term, that we should get some education on fundraising for organizations. We each, there's 4 of us involved, 3 families that raise their own funds. And that's very familiar to us, but raising funds for an organization is completely different. About 15 years ago, I began to learn from an organization called People Raising. It's led by Bill Dillon, who created an organization in Chicago 50 years ago called Inner City Impact, ministering to youth in need. And from Bill's insight through video, websites, emails, I incorporated his methods into my personal support raising, and it's helped my family since then to raise funds we need to stay in full-time ministry. Bill has retired from Inner City Impact, and he is now consulting, using his experience to help other ministries raise funds. And I got in touch with Bill last June and learned what he was doing. And after a conversation with the team, we decided it would be good for us to get some help as we look to communicate with people that might partner with CAMI financially. And we're glad we did. As we stepped into our first conversation with Bill, it became evident to us infrastructure. Questions Bill asked about CAMI to gain understanding made sense to us. We'd been doing the work of CAMI for a number of years, but it had been mostly connecting resources to the need. What we needed was structure to have our house in order to expand the ministry in every way. So we've been working with Bill for the last 3 months, and it's become clear to us that we're missing some key things that potential donors would ask us about. We came away from the first meeting with a direction to organize our business plan, and these are the steps we're taking. After 5 meetings, we're just now getting to the portion where we're talking about raising money. So in getting started, we found it necessary to create job descriptions to communicate our roles clearly, and the creation of good messaging for meeting with pastors, staff members, lay leaders, business leaders, individuals, et cetera, to tell the CAMI story. And one of the things we focused on is getting our website online. We've actually had a couple of versions of website for a while, but we had some trouble transferring over. So we're just now getting to that. What it communicates and what we need to communicate is important. How we will drive people to the website and what info do we want from them? We found out that our Pray, Give, Serve page needs more clarification. How can we pray for you? How can you serve? Where's our contact form? Invitations to attend events or meetings. Do they want to add their email address to our newsletter list? We need to address everything that we do in some way on the website. And it was very evident to us that Bill pores over everything we send him and gives us good feedback on it. We also learned from him that we need to include testimonies of how we're helping, and then endorsements. He talked about a board of references. This is not a group that meets together like a board of directors, but he said it's important to have people who can endorse your ministry that may be known by the audience that we're targeting and what they can say about the ministry, someone with a good reputation, use their photo and quotes in literature and brochures as well. And then working on mission and vision statements. Our mission and vision statements were not currently where we're at, so they needed to be updated to be current. And we have just completed that process and are in the process of creating our core values. Then budget planning, assigning costs to roles and projects to present to potential donors. This is important for the presentation and may cause them to have interest in a specific area or need. Bill also said it's important to know about our donors. These are the things that we need to collect, asking, looking, listening, and researching to know all we can about them before we meet, collecting personal and professional information, how they like to give, what's their giving focus? Do they give to kids, homelessness, animals, medical needs, etc.? There's a form that Katie will send to you that Bill recommended. It's from the McKay envelope company that they used for years to know their customers better. Bill said it's good to collect the information on a potential donor so you know them well during the presentation. They'll be impressed. You may not be able to answer every question about them on the form, and some questions probably won't even apply very much because it was set up for a business. But find out as much information as you can for your donor file. Then we have just recently started talking about prospects, making a list of prospects that have the capacity to say yes to a donor ask, and a list of those that can give you names of other prospects who can say yes to a donor ask. Then we talked about speaking opportunities, asking pastors to host a small event to gather people and let them know what's going on. Pastors know a lot of people of influence and means. Make a list of groups you can speak to and prioritize them where you'll get the message out. For instance, Bill talked about a Rotary Club or a business leaders meeting being a mid-level opportunity, but a good thing for community awareness, but a faith-based organization or individual is a higher level opportunity. Both give us visibility in a wide variety of areas, but one is more than the other. And then there's getting the appointment. He said, don't talk about the whole story when you make the call to set up the meeting. Be sure to mention that money is going to be discussed if you're going to do an ask, so there are no surprises. He said, don't ask for referrals at the appointment. He said, do that later in the relationship. People give to people they know, trust, and care for. And then share a vision, getting the message out that marriage helps kids will win over dollars of givers to work at the source of the problems to the kids and families. People love to give to downstream projects because they believe their gift can help alleviate a problem. They don't understand going upstream to upstream projects to prevent a problem from happening in the first place. It's important to be clear about this in the messaging. That was very interesting because Bill is not as familiar with upstream projects as well. So this is newer to him. He's always been in the downstream. Then there's a need to create talking points. It's good to mention that as our staff, we're not raising money for salaries at this point. So this is a good opportunity to tell them their gift has a good return on investment. And we also have a need for office space to increase our effectiveness through collaboration and meeting together regularly. So he said it's good to mention projects like that and projects that will not happen without funding. He also discussed heavily gifts in kind being a good way to connect with people that can help with a variety of services that we wouldn't necessarily have to pay for. Then he's gone into the meeting agenda with a pastor or a donor prospect as being very important. He talked about preparing for each meeting specifically. Ask for an hour and watch the clock. If you then need more time, ask for permission to go over the stated time. Find out what the business or the church culture are like and how things are going for them, especially with the church after COVID. Do they have anything going on for a marriage ministry at their church or personally? What would it look like if they had some of their couples investing in marriages? State the need for marriage ministry and answer any questions they might have at this point. Tell them about the organization and create this part of your message to be about 20 minutes. What do we have to offer them? We're building relationship first, then building out marriage ministry with them. Tell them we offer collaboration, assistance, and promotion for what their marriage ministry does or will do, and then give them an action step to move forward. Ask, how do we want them to continue to be informed? If they want to email or a report or a visit, and then finally ask for another opportunity when you can be in front of them. When asking for the gift, always ask for a specific gift or a range of a gift. Know the prospect's ability to give in advance so you don't miss an opportunity to maximize their participation. And then think about the questions potential donors are asking. What do you hear from them during the appointment? Consider these questions and find answers to them to either get back with the prospect or be prepared for a future meeting. And then I asked a question about large fundraising events, and Bill said he hasn't found large gatherings to be very effective in most cases. Many times the potential large givers are invited and they're invited to everything. So they may not attend your event until they become involved with your organization. He said, if you're doing a banquet to bring people in, look at it as a way of them testing you out and meet no longer than a couple of hours. He said he's found it best to set up tables of 8, preset the desserts, have dinner served and a key speaker, share the vision, progress, goals, and needs. And then he said, table sponsors are difficult to succeed with in most cases. And if they're used, expect to fill the seats that the sponsors can't fill. Invite people you want to hear your message and potentially give. And look at the event to inform you about the people and how to follow up with them. So these are the things that we've found very important for us to consider and begin to put in place as we prepare to talk with Bill about how to raise money. Now we're at the beginning of that conversation and we're going to be going deeper in our next meeting. Thankfully, we do have a foundation for raising money, but it's much different than how we will actually raise money for the Central Arkansas Marriage Initiative.
Thank you for that valuable information, Mark. Those are all wonderful tips, and I will certainly send that document out to everyone following the call. So thank you. And I just wanted to mention that I always reach out to our guest speakers prior to the event, asking them to send their bios over so that I might properly introduce them. And when I heard back from Mark, he asked that everyone just know 3 things about him: that he's a native Texan, that he's an Astros fan, and that he loves his grandson dearly. So there you go. All of the important things in life, right, Mark? Oh, wonderful. Okay. So moving on, next on our agenda, we have Paul Kuhn and Solome Skaff. And to tell you a little bit about their background, Paul is a relationship advocate and is passionate about connecting couples and organizations with resources that promote healthier, happier, stronger, and more fulfilling relationships. Paul and his wife, Beth, have been equipping couples with the skills and habits to support lasting, fulfilling relationships on a volunteer basis for over 25 years. And in 2020, Paul started focusing full-time on making marriage enrichment the norm for every couple. He's currently working on his master's in marriage and family therapy and has joined the Forward Foundation to launch the Austin Marriage Initiative. Our other speaker with the Austin Marriage Initiative is Solome or Saul Skaff. And Saul is a licensed professional counselor and clinical supervisor and has served as a pastor and missionary over the past 20 years. He and Hillary, his wife, are the co-founders of the Forward Foundation, which is a network of mental health counselors and coaches really dedicated to helping people get unstuck and move forward in life. And today, this dynamic duo will be speaking on their church engagement process. So thank you guys for being here with us today.
Take us off mute, that'll help. Let's see. I will share the screen. Can y'all hear us just fine?
Yes.
I should practice this basic. Share. Share. We'll put it in presentation mode. All right, there.
There we go. Does that look good?
Yes, we can see it
Then
well.
we'll keep going.
Okay.
So yeah, as you said, this is what we use here in Austin. I think it's a little bit different than the normal process. So hopefully we're going to go through it and then we'll leave some time for questions because it's really how you can take this process and apply it. We did our initial engagement following this process, but I think we'll use a similar process as we go out again and kind of expand the circle we're working with later in the year. To understand this process, I think Katie shared a little bit about who we are at the Forward Foundation, but I think that's key to our strategy is kind of some aspects of who we are. We do counseling, coaching, and equipping. And with Saul's background in counseling and working with a major church, just knowing the enormous need that's out there. So he actually built a coaching certification business to kind of equip Christian leaders to be life care coaches. There's a whole network of coaches that he has with him at the Forward Foundation. And then he also already works on equipping churches to install these life care ministries. So these are critical parts of who we are as an organization. You want to say anything more about that?
Nope, you got it.
So kind of the process behind that is we followed a very basic kind of connect with churches, understand what their needs are and support. But we look not so much at churches, but what the network of churches were in our area. We focused more on
I'm messing up
really
your screen.
touchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, arrow speed.
There we go. I'm trying to make that smaller.
Oh, there's a little.
There we go.
There we go. So we focused on the network. We didn't want to recreate, just like we don't want to recreate marriage ministries, we didn't want to recreate a network that existed. So I'm going to walk you through this process. And actually, we're down right now in the support category. We're just finishing we'll talk to a little bit about how he kicked off our process of connecting with churches.
Yeah, so as Paul said, maybe some of this is unique to us, but I suspect that, all of you guys have some kind of relational network in the area that you are in. And so, that's what we did is we worked through the relational network that we had at our disposal. I served on staff at a church. The pastor of that church is a part of a larger network of churches that's really been growing in Austin over the past 20 or 30 years. So God was already at work, connecting churches together for the past, I think, 6 or 7 years. Every few years, they do a citywide campaign, like sermon series campaign, that's very missional. It's designed to bring new people in. All the churches do it at the same time. It's the same content. It's just a real show of unity of the church here in Austin. And so that was the network that we were able to tap into through this pastor who plays a lead role in that network. It's called Christ Together. And so talked to him, told him about the community marriage initiative. He connected me with some people who then communicated out to the churches what the message was, that we were, applying for this grant. We needed some church support and church partnerships. And I mean, within a week, I'd say we had all of the churches that we needed to apply for the grant. And, they were all excited about it. I think the key was, it wasn't me going to them directly. It was having the church leader send out the email that explained what we were doing and what the vision was, and recommending it to them. And because, as was it Mark, the last guy, was saying, people give to what people that they know and care about. Well, it wasn't so much that they know and care about me, although I do know a lot of them, but this leader is the person who they really trusted, and they took his recommendation. So if you can find someone like that, this could be a really useful model for you. So that's how we kicked it off.
So I think that's key from y'all's part. Just think about what the networks are. We have a church planning network, we have some denominational networks, but there's some type of network, I think, and to build a relationship, not just with churches, but with the network. And then we'll just kind of work out how this process went. So it went out to the network. We ended up having 14 churches respond. As Saul said, this happened within a week. And we had basically built digital forms of the SAMI forms, or not the SAMI forms, but the Marriage Initiative forms online. And in his email, he said, hey, to support this, go complete these 2 forms. So we got churches that were highly interested in marriage. And I did add some extra information to these forms that I think is really critical. One field that I found that was extremely useful as we move forward was just, hey, any additional information about programs you like, contacts you have in this area, specific requests you have around in marriage. The wealth of information that came from this additional piece of information was super useful later on. And there's, hey, do you want us to keep you in touch with the Community Marriage Initiative? So as I said, we got 14 responses back from churches fairly quickly. And then based upon those responses is really when we started our relationship with them, individual at the church level. We immediately, upon getting these, responded back with a very personal email, thanking them for supporting the initiative, and then using the information they had in that form, be it what ministries they were interested in or the comments they added that field, to kind of just connect with them. Sorry that COVID has been hard on you. Sounds like you're having great success with this. Can't wait to learn more. Something personal about it. And then we tried to just keep communication going like every 30 days until we heard about the grant. We told them all we'd be knowing in September. So September came. We didn't get the grant initially. We had to go back and make some edits to our process. So we sent them an email, said, hey, Austin's a finalist. We'll be getting back with you as soon as we know more. And in hindsight, I didn't see this strategically at first, but we were really building a team of people communicating this way. I do think that all these churches now feel like, they've helped us get this grant and they're part of a team to do marriages in Austin. So I like this camaraderie that has been built up already. And then once we did get the grant, we just reached back out to them and said, hey, we got the grant, get a very personalized comment. We'd love to learn more about your church, what you're doing, what your goals are in marriage, and how this grant can help you. So it was very focused on, hey, we're here to help you, your church, your goals, this. And they all opened up to it. Not all, I say. Of the churches, I think of the 14, I've met with 10 of them, and the 4 other ones are still engaged. We just didn't get to have a one-on-one meeting. But the one-on-one meeting kind of looked like this. I won't go into details that much on it, but that email went, that was very personalized. We set up the meeting, and then after the meeting, sent them a follow-up email summarizing the meeting. I think what worked really good at this is, again, thanking them, showing curiosity about them. I went to all their websites. Sometimes I even watched sermons. I knew their church and showed up and showed a lot of interest in their church when we sat down and talked to them. But then we just kind of said, hey, here's the grant. It's all about, building an organization to support churches. It has no programs. it just goes with the goers. That's its theme. So tell me, what programs work for you, what programs don't, and that would just open up just such an enriched dialogue between what they've done, what they like about what they've done, what they haven't liked, what they need. And then when we close out the conversation, because at this point, I'm always stressed out, overwhelmed, like, wow, there's more to do at this one church than you could possibly do all of next year. How do I get this back? So just, of all these things we discussed, what would benefit you most next year? What's most important to you, which would really draw it down to where their heart was. So we did that with the churches. We took all that input after we sent them email. We summarized it. This is kind of our summary. I won't go into the details of it. We'll share the slides. You can dig into it. But they talked about programs. They talked about resource shortages from human and financial and other things, space. But we've broken this down. We'll go back and we'll talk to them about it. We put together this, our 8 stages of supporting relationships and kind of the programs that they talked about, that they shared with us. Re-engage is huge in our area, has a lot of momentum. Healthy marriage, or keeping marriage healthy, is a program that has lots of momentum in this area. Symbis had lots of momentum in this area. So these are programs that already have momentum that we're going to look to help build momentum around. And then where the gaps are that people brought up they needed, we really feel like Adventures in Marriage is just a great fit to fill in multiple of their needs. So we're going to propose that as a program to bring to the area. Our general strategy we're moving forward with it, we're going to present to them is, we want to focus first on equipping leaders that can equip churches, that can then equip couples, with the goal of, as we, take these ministries to more couples, we'll identify more leaders that can equip more churches. So that's kind of our general philosophy that we're putting out there for them. So that's kind of where we're at now. We're at this equip stage where we've developed a strategy. In the next 2 weeks, we'll sit down again with these churches as kind of a group meeting and just kind of present what we think were these programs and how we might help support them. In that process, we'll ask their feedback. So I'm sure the strategy is going to change in the next 2 weeks a little bit as far as what programs and how we go about rolling it out. And then what our goal is going to be is in the first part of next year is how do we help these 14 churches do something in marriage? And with the goal being, if we help this group succeed, we then go back to that network that's highly connected with extremely positive reputation. And at this point, we've trained up enough leaders to really go out in a second wave and have, a magnitude difference in scale as we go out a year from now.
Yeah, and I would just add, like, we probably could have guessed that we were going to wind up here with presenting the programs that we are presenting to the church network.
Mm-hmm.
But we felt like it was really important not to get ahead of the relationship, but to have a time of an initial connection, listening to them. It's possible we could have been wrong at our guess. So just really hearing from them, where is God moving? Where's the momentum? Where is the motivation for each of these churches, and then to present a solution that solves the problem that they have stated, rather than us coming with the solution and sort of skipping that step. So I think that's, you pull the chat stuff so we can see.
Oh, all right.
Enough. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we'll wait till the end for questions, Katie. No problem.
So that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul and Saul. And wow, what a strategic process for engaging with churches. That was amazing. And I specifically liked the part where, you mentioned that the churches really felt a part of the process. And it was this collaborative process where, you were keeping them kind of updated along the way. And then when you finally received the I definitely think this is something that our CMIs may be able to take bits and pieces from. And so, Paul, you mentioned that we could share these slides with our other CMIs around the US. So I will certainly go ahead and do that following this call. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have Dave Jackson, and Dave is the Executive Director of Friends of the Family Ministries. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist in Oregon and a credentialed pastor in the Evangelical Church on special assignment to Friends of the Family. While Dave first began his career out of college working in the mental health field, he eventually realized that he wanted to work more upstream to help families before and broken. He then went on to earn his master's degree in marriage and family therapy and served 14 years as the adult and family ministries pastor at Corvallis Evangelical Church in Oregon. While at the church, Dave brought various marriage programs to the church as well as to the community. Years later, Dave went on to launch two organizations, the Third Option and Marriage Works Family Matters, both of which are still going very strong today. And then in 2016, Dave became the executive director of Friends of the Family Ministries, where he still currently serves. And this afternoon, Dave will be presenting on the organization Mission Increase and how it has served Friends of the Family and how it might help you and your CMI with fundraising and donor relations. So Dave, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Katie. Great to be here. So trying to share here. Can you hear me now? Yes, okay, good. And can you see this big slide?
Yes,
All
we
right.
can.
Okay, thank you. So Friends of the Family, in case you don't know where Corvallis is, so this is a map of our country that I'm just one of the inspiring things about this for me is thinking about you all and who we're partnering with through this initiative across the country, and get to learn from like this. And it's one of the most exciting parts of being a recipient of one of the CMI grants is just to be able to hang out with you all and learn from you and share ideas. So this is Oregon in the northwest corner. In case you've never been to this part of the country, you need to come visit. It's beautiful. We're way over here in the Willamette Valley, where really this region right here, 85–90% of the population of Oregon lives here. And we zeroing Portland's up here, Eugene, two of the bigger cities. Corvallis is way over here. And this is kind of the region that we've been serving for 28 years, Friends of the Family. So Katie mentioned that there was two different ministries, and I'm sharing this because the founder of Friends of the Family Ministries, Ken Himes, Dr. Reverend Ken Himes, didn't know much about fundraising. God's grace and favor were upon him, though, and he developed a really good foundation of people supporting the ministry who believed in raising up God's design for marriage and family and strengthening relationships. The Lord led me after I was left the pastorate to start a similar ministry in the same area called Marriage Works Family Matters. And one of the cool things about Ken and the CMI initiative is this spirit of collaboration. Ken could have viewed Marriage Works Family Matters as this competitor of hang on, there's only so much need right in this area, and this is my territory, and it was just the exact opposite. He said, hey, if you need, here's our articles of incorporation that we did 22 years ago at the time. If these could be of service to you, take it and run with it. So we started this, and then we ended up merging the two into Friends of the Family when Ken was ready to retire. One of the things Ken told me about was this ministry introducing to you today, if you haven't ever heard of it, called Mission Increase Foundation. And this is their website. Down here at the bottom, it's just called missionincrease.org. This is the front page. Listen to this mission of theirs. We help nonprofits fulfill their God-given mission and increase their kingdom impact. Oh my gosh, this is their purpose, to come alongside folks like us to help us figure out how to grow our ministry, to figure out fundraising in a God-honoring way, because not every way of fundraising is God-honoring, right? If you go to their website, one of their if you scroll down, and they talk about the solutions that they try to bring. And I'm just going to zero in to guide our conversation. This is the problem that they mention nonprofits face. See if this resonates with you at all. Leaders get into ministry because they are passionate about a cause, but they are often constrained by a lack of capacity for fundraising, over dependence on a few donors, and an inability to measure effectiveness and outcomes. This was totally me. Like, I came out of working in a church. I never fundraised a dollar. Well, that's not true. I would do car washes and bake sales with a youth group that my wife and I helped out with, right? That's not the kind of fundraising that we need to carry our missions forward, right? So this problem, Mission Increase, is tuned into, and they have some solutions. So here's their solution section on that same front page. We use a teach them to fish approach by communicating biblically infused transformational giving principles through area directors who coach and consult nonprofit leaders. Now, Ken Himes, Friends of the Family founder director, told me about Mission Increase because he had just learned of them a year or two before Marriage Works Family Matters was being formed. And he said, you should check this group out. They're super helpful. And their national headquarters is actually in the Portland area, but I have a slide coming up here that talks about the area directors across the country that they have, maybe in a town near you. So the solution goes on to say, focused on teaching, coaching, and capacity building metrics. That sounds kind of familiar to the CMI purpose. We conduct the rigorous measurement of growth and outcomes using a proprietary and sophisticated technology platform. As a result, nonprofit affiliates experience a doubling, tripling, or more of income growth. Now, I can't say that Friends of the Family has experienced the doubling or tripling. But one of the things, so entering into being called to this ministry because of the passion that God's given me does not automatically make me have any clue about fundraising, right? So I'll share some more in a moment. But this organization, through teaching, coaching, consulting, trainings, like high quality trainings for a year that are free to Christian ministries that are seeking to better understand how they could fundraise in ways that are pleasing and glorifying to God. They have made, well, we wouldn't be right here right now with you all without their influence, their encouragement. It's a group that's helped us feel like we're not alone in this. There's people who can. Now, some of you on this call probably can read a book or an article and like breathe life into it and make it work for you. I kind of need some more hand-holding and like helping somebody knowledgeable coming alongside and helping me figure out how it applies, these principles apply to my setting and my context, right? This is what Mission Increase does with their area directors. So the next thing I wanted to share, if I can share my screen again, is, in addition, it goes on. In addition, we invite select ministries to build fundraising capacity through outcomes-based matching grants. Our work also encourages synergy among nonprofits in their community, which reduces isolation of ministry leaders and unhealthy competition. Lastly, this is my emphasis here, we offer all of these services at no cost to the nonprofit. Now, just so, no cost. Their mission is to help us do our mission well. The trainings that they offer, they have each quarter, there's a different emphasis. The first quarter of each year is some training related to better understanding and better connecting with major gift donors. Second quarter is giver acquisition strategies, how to grow your donor base, right? Third quarter is something related to ministry communications with all of your champions. And then the fourth quarter is related to ministry leadership. And so these trainings are wonderful, and they connect you with other ministries in the area, not necessarily marriage ministries, right? But other ministries who are trying to figure this out. So here's the slide of the current area directors. So I know there's some people from like, well, there's some people from Texas around here, right? I think there's some Oklahoma people, right? But you can reach out to an area director from their website, missionincrease.org, to just say, hey, I just heard this dude talking about your ministry. How can I get connected? Also on the website at the top, there's a link that you can register your nonprofit with them. There are some, I'd be happy to answer any more questions about that. But one of the big principles, I was like, what's one thing that I can share that we like that's really shaped the way we think about fundraising? This is a traditional, I think, kind of way. Hey, we are doing this amazing ministry here. Look at all the amazing work that we do and lives, relationships transformed. You need to give us some of your money so we can do this great work, right? That's kind of, I think that's on some level, it's crude, but on some level, that's what I came into the ministry thinking about. Yeah, donors, they give so we can do this amazing work. But Mission Increase has challenged this arrow over here to, instead of thinking about this section right here as, what do you want from your donors? That's a mindset right there. And it's I think God has a bigger mindset that he wants us to embrace when we think of raising money for these ministries of ours. It's more of a, what do you want for your champions? Back to this slide here. Our ministries have an opportunity. God can use our ministry to absolutely benefit couples, relationships throughout our communities, help churches to grow marriage ministries that can just become a hub of healthy relationships in the community. And yes, that is an amazing and important direction of ministry, but there's also ministry to the people that God stirs their hearts to engage with us in this ministry. How what do we want for them? How might our ministries to grow them as disciples of Christ? there's some amazing ways when we step back and think about, wow, what do we want for our champions? What do we want for our champions? And I you notice I changed this word here. They're not just donors. These are fellow champions of this cause. Something, they're engaged with us because God stirred something in their hearts. And how can we maximize that, grow that, not just in a bigger donation next time, but grow, how might God use us to be a part of their spiritual growth and development? So that's one of the major, huge, mind-bending differences for me in my several year interactions with Mission Increase Foundation. Just so happens that one of the vice presidents at Mission Increase, he's on the staff page, is a fellow colleague from the denomination that I'm a part of out here in Oregon. His name's Randy Butler, and it's just the Lord kind of brought us together this week unexpectedly on both of our parts. And I said, "Hey, I'm sharing about your ministry this Friday," and he said, "Hey, give them my name and number, and if they want to learn more about Mission Increase, have them give me a call or shoot me an email." And he especially encouraged Katie, you and Carl and Dennis and the CMI team. He would love to talk with you guys about possibly sharing more about Mission Increase in some context or inviting people to something. But he's one of the vice presidents there, and he believed in marriages and was really excited that I was going to be sharing about this. I think I'll pause right there. And if there's questions, I'll be happy to field them.
David, thank you, Dave. And if it's okay with you, I think we'll save our questions for the end just after Carl speaks, and then we can have kind of a group Q&A. Well, wonderful. And thank you for sharing your insight on this topic. And as you mentioned multiple times, the best part is that there's no membership fee for Mission Increase. So definitely something that I think our CMIs may be able to take advantage of when the timing is right. So thank you, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, we get to hear from Carl Caton. And as you know, Carl's the president and founder of Marriage Initiative. And today, Carl will be speaking on building marriage ministries in churches by bringing people together at roundtable events. So Carl, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Katie. Wow, and it has been so much fun to be with you all today. We've heard some great messages from our friends and best practices around the country. Thanks, everyone, for all that you brought to this. Yeah, I want to talk about next year, 2023. How do we, in our respective cities, how do we bring people together? Because there's something really magic when people come together in a room and get to know one another. And I'm going to share about what we've been doing in San Antonio for the last 12 years. In what we call our roundtable events. Roundtable events are a convening that we do quarterly in San Antonio, and we bring people together mostly around the unique role that they play. What's the unique role that each of us play in our community, and how can we bring people together around that unique role? The purpose of bringing people together is, we often think of it's to learn from each other, it's to be equipped. And how can we share best practices like we're doing today? How can we learn from each other that way? But we've also found that those people who come together at our lunches, they feel very encouraged. They find resources, and maybe more than anything, they create connections on their own. And we're very excited about that. We all know that bringing people together is difficult. People are busy, they've got a lot going on, they've got a lot on their calendars. And so the one thing that we know that is so vital to make this healthy and to make it happen is to meet an immediate need. What are the immediate needs that our champions in the communities face? And we do that by following a seasonal pattern. And we talk about what's happening in each season of the year. What are some of the elevated needs that happen during those seasons? And how can we meet those needs? So every January, as you know, January is the launch of divorce season, where divorce kicks off in our communities. It begins increasing in February and peaks in March every year. And every year, a lot of church leaders, a lot of ministry leaders are really concerned about struggling couples. And so every January, the theme is to talk about how do we come alongside struggling couples? What can we do to help serve these couples that are in a very difficult place? The irony is that divorce season is followed by wedding season. So in April, top of mind for a lot of church leaders, a lot of ministry leaders is the summer months and how they'll be officiating weddings. They have young couples or people that are engaged and they're thinking about marriage preparation. So we always in April, we talk about marriage preparation. Now, as you know, in August, that's the beginning of the year. For church leaders, most church leaders follow the school calendar. So the first month of the year for church leaders is August, not January. And very often in August, church leaders are thinking about the fall semesters. They're thinking about programming, what they're going to roll out. And that's when we talk about the most fundamental thing we do in marriage ministry, which is enrichment. And then finally, the last season of the year is October, as families are approaching Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we know that for so many families, and especially for so many couples, it can be a very, very difficult season. A lot of couples approach the holiday season saying one of two things. Either, I hope that somehow we find a way forward together, or number one, or number two, we're going to suffer through this and I'm going to file for divorce in January. And so we convene women's ministry leaders often in October because there's no one in the church that is more in tune with what's happening in families than women's ministry leaders. What's really unique about following this seasonal pattern is that each theme gives us a strategic opportunity to invite unique people in our community. Because in January, as we're talking about struggling couples, that's when we invite people from ministries that do intensives. We invite counseling organizations. We invite other nonprofits like Retrovi. Think of all the organizations that specialize in serving struggling couples. And it gives us a special opportunity to talk about something that they are very passionate about. In April, of course, we're talking about helping prepare couples for marriage. We reach out very often to our Prepare Enrich facilitators. And as you know, if you go to the Prepare Enrich website, you can search for facilitators in your area. If you do a search in San Antonio, you'll find a list of 40 to 50 names, along with phone numbers, which is very helpful. And it gives us an opportunity to reach out to our Prepare Enrich facilitators. The same for SYMBIS facilitators. There's a way that you can connect and find SYMBIS facilitators. And also, as you know, Reengage has a ministry called Merge, and you can find the churches that serve in Merge. So strategically, it helps us reach out to people, say, hey, we know that you're passionate about helping couples prepare for marriage. You're a Prepare Enrich facilitator. Would you like to come and meet some of your peers and meet some of the people who are doing that and learn from them and learn from their best practices? It gives you a more razor sharp focus way to invite. In the fall season, in August, certainly we invite people that are doing things like Adventures in Marriage or Weekend to Remember or things like Reengage. It gives you a chance to reach out to them. And women's ministry leaders in October are very interesting because in most communities, a lot of these ladies don't know each other. There's no one that's convening them. And this has been one of the most effective ways to bring them together, to say, hey, what would it look like if you could come together and meet some of your peers from across the city, get to know them, hear about what they're struggling with or what they're working on or what things that they're excited about? What would that look like? So this is a format that we use for bringing people together. It's been very effective. We have consistently had between 40 and 80 people attending our quarterly events, and it's been a great way for people to get to know one another. One of the most amazing things that happens at these events is it helps us all find ourselves on equal footing. And as you're trying to reach out to churches and build ministries rather than, or help them build marriage ministries rather than cold calling, this allows you to share a meal with them, to get to know them on an equal footing, and it puts you in a much more positive framework to begin building those relationships. In the coming months, we're going to talk about what are the tools that we use to put these on those tools with you. What's the promotional language we use? What are some of the graphics we use? What are some of the strategies that we use? And if you'd like to do some quarterly convenings in your community, we'd like to collaborate with you separately from this call, but to help you learn about what we've learned to be successful in that way. And I know many of you are already doing this. I see Tom Pritchard on the call. Tom's been doing this in Minnesota. It'll be a great chance for us to share best practices, but we look forward to creating a collaborative network where we can learn from each other. So thank you, Katie, for letting me share today.
Thank you, Carl. And wow, we are prompt today. We started at noon and we ended at 1, so perfect. And thank you again to all of our guest speakers for joining us here today. You know, our hope is always that these training events will provide value and insight for our partner cities. So if you have any feedback, good or bad, please let us know, or if there is any way that Marriage Initiative can come alongside you and help support you and your CMI team, please feel free to reach out to me at sammy.katieray@gmail.com. I did want to give a quick exciting announcement and let you all know that Mr. Jeff Kemp will be speaking at our CMI training event in December next month. So make sure you mark your calendars for December 16th. And I think that's the Friday kind of right before the busyness of the holidays. So we'll all get to see each other right before we depart for the holidays. And lastly, if you're able to stick around, we will have a 10 to 15 minute Q&A session where you can ask our guest speakers questions about their presentations. And with that, we will say goodbye, and we hope that everyone has a blessed weekend and a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday spent with your family. So thank you all. We'll see you soon. And I think a lot of us are probably going to stick around for the Q&A. So what we'll do is, just as we've done in the past, if you could just virtually raise your hand on your screen, and we will try and go in the order that your hand was raised. Sometimes it's a little tricky to see which hand came up first, but if you want to go ahead and start doing that, we will call on you. And it looks like Mr. Tom Pritchard, I think you were first, so you have the floor.
Yes, Paul, when you were talking about reaching churches at Austin, would you say that they're larger churches, already kind of mega churches, ones which already have established marriage ministries? And if so, is there kind of a strategic reason why that may be an effective way to go to at least begin to launch something?
We had a whole variety of churches respond. If I look at the spectrum, we had smaller churches, which would be a lot of them because they had, I think, the biggest need for how do you expand. But then we had one, Hill Country, that responded, was I would say a mega church. Another one was a mega church. And what I'm seeing as we go through, because there's already the network in Austin, they all kind of know one another. They planted one another. Some of them refer to themselves as the daughter and granddaughter. But I've liked the mixture of big spaces, big churches and small, because I think we're going to be able to share spaces in some of the big churches with some of the smaller churches that don't have good meeting spaces. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, and so you went through a key pastor. Was that kind of the hook to eventually get the message out?
It was actually a network. So they actually do have a central organization here in Austin, and they had, and maybe Saul could probably, it's like pastor groups. So we went through the leader of the pastor groups.
Yeah, so the key pastor recommended us to the gatekeeper for the networks. There are 2 different gatekeepers, and then those gatekeepers communicated out to the networks about what the Community Marriage Initiative was, and then it was, they just responded to that email. Yeah, so that's how it.
Yeah, it was a pretty easy sell. I mean, because everybody believed in marriages, and we weren't really asking for much other than just your support to tell us what's going on and to bring external resources. So we really weren't putting a heavy lift on the churches initially, and I think that was key. And just, it was easy to get people behind the message of building up marriages.
Thank you.
Okay, next I think we had Laura with Live the Life. So Laura, you can go ahead.
Great, thanks, Katie. So first I want to thank Dave for speaking to us about missionincrease.org. I've got to unmute myself. Am I unmuted now? Okay, I want to thank
we were able to
Dave.
hear you.
Okay, great. to give us that referral over to missionincrease.org. I have another meeting after this, but after that, I'm making a beeline over to that because I need the help in breathing the life into what our fundraising missions are right now too. But I had a question for Paul and Saul. So it seemed like you had a church leader champion that really was at the forefront of the beginning of your model that you showed us there. What would you suggest if you don't have a champion like that? And or how would you convert a soft partnership into being more of a champion for your cause?
Well, let me speak to that, and then if you have something to fill, I would just say, like, even though we did have a champion, if I had approached him asking for him to do a lot for us, I don't know that he would have gone for it. What's great about the CMI grant is it allows you to have some resource that you can do something for them. So it's basically the approach to him was, can we help the churches in this network do more or do something with marriages? It's like, how do you say no to that? And it helped that we had a personal relationship, but even if we didn't, knowing this person and his heart for families and individuals, I think he still would have helped. So that's my take.
Yeah, and I just, the assumption that we had a champion, I don't think, I would not say the person who communicated for us was a champion, but we built trust with him enough that, and we made the lift very low. I mean, we almost gave him word for word. Here's the email, here's the links. All you got to do is cut, paste, and send. And so it was more of, we built trust. And I think that was the key, the work up to building the trust to let him have access to his communication.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I think those are the only two that I saw with hands raised, but if anyone would like to jump in at this point, please feel free. Any other questions for Paul and Saul, or Carl or Dave with Mission Increase, or with Mark? Anything else that you guys can think of? Well, as we mentioned, and during their presentations, we will be sending out Mark's list that he received from Bill of how to get to know your donors, and we will also share Paul and Saul's presentation as well. And then I think you guys all know the Mission Increase website. So well, if there's no other questions, again, we want to thank you all for joining us here today, and we hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and we will see you back here next month.